What if everything you thought you knew about ancient Rome was wrong? Prepare to have your mind blown as we unearth astonishing forgotten marvels and engineering feats that reveal a civilization far more advanced than history books let on. Get ready to challenge your understanding of an empire thought to be fully explored. The Forum, a field of ghosts. To grasp the magnitude of the loss, one must understand the transformation of the Roman Forum. For centuries, this valley, flanked by the Palatine and Capitoline hills, was the throbbing heart of the known world. The site of the Senate House, the Rostra where Cicero spoke, the temples of the Vestal Virgins, and the triumphal arches celebrating victory over distant lands. Here, the fate of Gaul, Egypt, and Britannia was decided. By the early Middle Ages, however, the Forum was utterly silent. No longer known as the Forum Romanum, it had been renamed the Campo Vaccino, the cow field. Where legions once marched and senators debated, cattle now grazed, their hooves churning the dust over marble pavements and shattered statues. The Senate House, stripped of its bronze doors and roof tiles, became a church, which was itself often flooded by the Tiber. The gigantic baths of Caracalla, designed to host thousands for bathing, exercise, and intellectual discussion, became little more than quarries for easily accessible pre-cut stone and a terrifying, dangerous ruin. The loss was not merely one of architecture, it was a loss of knowledge. The colossal columns that still jutted up like broken teeth from the earth were no longer recognized for what they were. They were simply local landmarks, used to tie up oxen or serve as makeshift boundary markers between different families' vegetable gardens. The very ground level of Rome had risen by up to 40 feet in some places, burying the imperial splendor so thoroughly that medieval Romans walked directly atop the rooflines and ceiling vaults of their ancestors' most glorious creations. The city didn't crumble. It simply sank into a deep, muddy sleep, a profound historical amnesia settling over its 7 hills. The accidental revelation of the Golden House. The story of the resurrection begins quite literally with a fall. In the late 15th century, during the burgeoning age of the Renaissance, a young man was walking near the Esquiline Hill, close to where the Colosseum would one day stand, when the earth beneath him gave way. He fell into a narrow, dark fissure. Scrabbling to find his footing, he found himself not in a natural cave, but in a meticulously engineered subterranean chamber, the air stale and silent for over 1,000 years. When his companions lowered a rope and light, what they saw, and what the young man had stumbled into, was not merely a ruin, but a revelation. He had found the buried remnants of the Domus Aurea, Nero's legendary Golden House. After the Great Fire of Rome in 64 A.D., the notoriously extravagant Emperor Nero seized a vast swath of burned-out central Rome to build himself a pleasure palace of unbelievable scale, covering up to 300 acres. After Nero's suicide and the subsequent revilement of his memory, his successors, eager to erase this symbol of tyranny, took a drastic, world-changing action. They filled the entire complex with earth, completely burying it to level the land, upon which they then built the Baths of Titus and, later, the Colosseum. Because it was buried, not destroyed, the Domus Aurea became a time capsule. The walls were not shattered marble, but still held vibrant, fantastical frescoes, preserved by the thousands of tons of earth packing the chambers. These were not the stiff, formal depictions of gods and emperors, but whimsical, delicate designs featuring slender columns, mythical creatures, and light, airy floral patterns. The discovery was immediate intellectual dynamite. When Renaissance masters like Pinturicchio, Ghirlandaio, and later the young Raphael had themselves lowered into these chambers, equipped with candles and sketchbooks, they were overwhelmed. They called the buried rooms grottos, and the style of painting they found, which was both playful and complex, they dubbed grotesque, or grotesque. The Domus Aurea provided the visual, stylistic lexicon that ancient Rome had seemingly forgotten to leave behind. Raphael himself spent hours crawling through the subterranean ruins, copying the patterns. The vibrant, light-hearted aesthetic of Nero's buried palace would go on to influence the decorative style of the Vatican's loggias and fundamentally change the course of Renaissance and Baroque art. This was the moment the lost world was first allowed to speak directly to the new. The unthinkable scale, water for 1,000,000. While the artists were rediscovering Rome's aesthetics, the city's lifeblood, its water, remained a testament to lost engineering genius. The Romans were masters of concrete and hydraulics, and their survival depended on it. By the 1st century AD, 11 major aqueducts supplied Rome with an estimated 250 million gallons of fresh water daily. That is roughly enough water to fill 375 Olympic-sized swimming pools every 24 hours, delivered reliably and continuously to a city without electric pumps. The most stunning of these was the Aqua Claudia, completed in 52 AD. It ran for over 43 miles, delivering water from sources high in the Subiaco Hills. For the last 9 miles, it ran on towering arches, some reaching 100 feet in height, marching inexorably toward the city. The aqueduct system wasn't just about bringing water in, it was about maintaining a permanent, gentle downhill gradient using only gravity, so that the water arrived with enough pressure to supply the highest points of the city's hills. The water supplied the public baths, the thermae, which were far more than just places to get clean. They were social centers, complete with libraries, gymnasia, and gardens. The baths of Diocletian, for example, could accommodate 3,000 people simultaneously. It was a societal contract. The Roman state provided clean water and sanitation to all citizens, regardless of wealth. This level of public utility, funded by the state, vanished entirely in the medieval period. The aqueducts were ultimately destroyed not by engineering failure, but by barbarian sieges, specifically the Gothic Wars of the 6th century. The Goths, realizing the city's dependence, systematically breached the exposed arched sections. Without their constant flow, Rome's sanitation collapsed. The grand baths became fetid ruins, and the population, deprived of clean running water, plummeted from 1 million to barely 20,000. It was the moment that the technical backbone of the city snapped, and the resulting depopulation allowed the earth to reclaim its lost wonders. The miracle of the Pantheon. Amidst the systemic ruin, one structure stands as a nearly perfect monument to survival: the Pantheon. Its endurance is not an accident of nature, but a fascinating study in political and religious adaptation. Built by Hadrian around 126 AD, the Pantheon structure is a mathematical miracle. It is a rotunda whose diameter, 142 feet, is exactly equal to its internal height. Its single central aperture, the oculus, acts as the sole source of light and ventilation. The dome itself is the largest unreinforced concrete dome ever built, a feat not surpassed until the 20th century. Its engineering secret lies in the concrete mix. Romans progressively lightened the materials, using heavy basalt aggregate at the base and porous, light volcanic pumice at the crown, ensuring that the weight was precisely managed. While the Colosseum was stripped for its iron clamps and the Forum for its marble veneers, the Pantheon survived because of a papal decision in 609 AD. Emperor Phocas gifted the structure to Pope Boniface IV, who immediately consecrated it as the Church of Santa Maria ad Martyrs, Saint Mary and the Martyrs. This act of conversion made it politically and spiritually untouchable. Yet even the Pantheon could not escape the greed of later popes. In 1625, Pope Urban VIII of the powerful Barberini family ordered that the bronze girders and roof trusses of the Pantheon's magnificent portico be melted down. They were famously used to create the colossal baldacchino canopy over the high altar of St. Peter's Basilica. The contemporary Roman saying, quod non ficerent barbari, ficerent barberini. What the barbarians did not do, the Barberini did, cemented the family's place in history as cultural vandals, even as they simultaneously fueled the Baroque period. The Pantheon, therefore, is not a testament to Roman durability alone, but a stark reminder that even the greatest structures survived only through a fragile combination of luck, piety, and strategic adaptation. The second unearthing, science and shadow. Today, the work of unearthing the lost wonders is no longer left to chance or a young man's misstep. Modern archaeology treats the ground beneath Rome as a multi-layered geological record of history. The most astounding recent discoveries have not come from the shovel, but from the shadow. Sophisticated technologies like ground-penetrating radar, GPR, and LiDAR, light detection and ranging, allow modern scholars to see through the centuries of accumulated earth and stone, creating three-dimensional maps of the buried city without disturbing a single stone. It is through these techniques that we confirm that the city that was lost is far vaster than the city that was found. Beneath the Piazza Navona lies the perfectly preserved footprint of the Stadium of Domitian. Beneath the modern streets are the sprawling, complex networks of forgotten sewage systems and subterranean Mithraea, temples to the god Mithras. We are learning that the collapse of Rome was not a total destruction, but a massive burial, a perfect preservation under a blanket of soil. The wonders are not gone, they are waiting. The earth merely claimed them for safekeeping, awaiting the moment of their inevitable, astonishing rediscovery.